Matha Airlines MMA 5012 taking a trip through the life of Saint Teresa would be departing shortly from Gate 6. Passengers are requested to please start boarding the aircraft.
Hi all, welcome aboard Mary Martha Airlines. This is Giselle Jensen, your captain for today's flight. Hope all of you are excited for our journey through the life of Saint Teresa. This is going to be a thrilling experience and certainly a time to look into our lives, deepen our faith, and also enhance our Christian lives. As St. Paul has stated in Ephesians chapter 6, I request all of you to fasten the seatbelt of your faith, to put on the breastplates of righteousness, shoes of peace, shield of faith, and helmet of salvation, and also to have the sword of the Spirit at all times during the journey. We follow a strict policy against emergency exits, and for this reason, we do not have emergency exits in this flight. The only course of action to be taken during the times of turbulence or emergency is to just call upon the name of the Lord our God Jesus Christ, whose number all of you must be having by now. We will be having multiple stops at various stages of Saint Teresa's life. Me and my crew hope that the life of Saint Teresa would inspire all of you to become good Christians. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are now proceeding to take off. Have a great flight.
Approaching first stop. Our crew member Anna Alentina will be guiding you all. Thank you.
Welcome to your first stop. I am Anna Alentina and I'll be sharing with you the birthplace and family background of Saint Therese of Lisieux. Therese was born in Alencon of France on January 2nd, 1873. She was the daughter of Mary Azélie, who was usually called Zélie, and Louis Martin, who was a jeweler and a watchmaker. Both of her parents were devout Christians, and eventually they are one of those married couples who got canonized together by the Roman Catholic Church. Louis and Zélie were canonized by Pope Francis in the year 2015. Louis had tried to become a canon regular and wanted to enter the great Saint Bernard Hospice, but he was refused because he knew no Latin. A canon regular is a member of one of the Roman Catholic religious institutes of regular priests who lived in community under the Augustinian rule. Zélie, who possessed to be strong and had an active temperament, wished to serve the sick and wanted to lead a consecrated life. But the prioress of the canoness regular discouraged her outright. Disappointed, Zélie learned lace making instead. She excelled in it and set up her own business at the age of 22. Louis and Zélie met in the year 1858 and got married on July 13th of the same year. Zélie wanted to become a saint and Louis wanted to become a monk. So after marriage, they determined that they would lead a celibate life. But the priest told that it was not how God wanted a marriage to work. They would have followed this advice very well because later they had 9 children. But from 1867 to 1870, they lost 4 of the children at their infancy. The rest who survived were all daughters, who later on became nuns. Their names were Mary, Pauline, Leonie, Céline, and Therese, who was the youngest of all the 9 children and who was their little queen. Thank you and hope you have a great flight ahead.
Approaching second stop. Our crew member Jocelyn will be guiding you all. Thank you.
Also called as Little Flower, was born on 2nd January 1873 in France. Her early name was Maria Francoise Therese Martin. She was the last of 9 children born to Louis and Zelly Martin. However, only 5 of his children lived to reach adulthood. Precocious and sensitive, Theresa needed much attention. Her mother died when she was 4 years old. As a result, her father and her sisters babied young Theresa. She had a spirit that wanted everything. Thank you.
Approaching third stop. Rigel from our crew would be guiding you all.
Welcome guys to the third stop of the tour, the Sisterhood of St. Therese of Lisieux. In November 1887, Louis took Celine and Therese on a diocesan pilgrimage to Rome for the priestly jubilee of Pope Leo XIII on 20 November 1887. During a general audience with Leo XIII, Therese in her turn approached the Pope, knelt and asked him to allow her to enter Carmel at 15. The Pope said, "Well, my child, do what the superiors decide. You will enter if it is God's will." And he blessed Therese. She refused to leave his feet, and the noble God had to carry her out of the room. The trip continued. They visited Pompeii, Naples, Assisi before going back. The pilgrimage of nearly a month was timely. During it, she learned more than in many years of study. For the first and last time in her life, she left a native Normandy. She understood that she had to pray and give her life for sinners like Pranzini. But Carmel prayed especially for priests, and this had surprised her since their souls seemed to her to be as pure as crystal. A month spent with many priests taught her that they are weak and feeble men. She wrote later, "I met many saintly priests that month, but I also found that in spite of being above angels by their supreme dignity, they were none the less men and still subject to human weakness. If the holy priest, the salt of the earth, as Jesus calls them in the gospel, have to be prayed for, what about the lukewarm?" Again, as Jesus says, "If the salt shall lose its savor, wherewith shall it be salted?" I understood my vocation in Italy. For the first time, too, she had associated with young men. In her brotherless existence, masculinity had been represented only by her father, Uncle Guerin, and various priests. Now she had a first and only experience. Celine declared at the beatification proceedings that one of the young men in the pilgrimage group developed a tender affection for her. Therese confessed to her sister, "It is high time for Jesus to remove me from the poisonous breath of the world. I feel that my heart is easily caused by tenderness, and where others fall, I would fall too. Where are no stronger than the others." Soon after that, the Bishop of Bayeux authorized the priories to receive Therese on 9th April 1888. I feel that my heart is easily caught by tenderness, and where others fall, I would fall too. We are no stronger than the others. Soon after that, the Bishop of Bayeux authorized the priories to receive Therese. On 9th April 1888, she became a Carmelite postulant. The convent Therese entered was an old established house with a long tradition. In 1838, two nuns from the Poitiers Carmel had been sent out to found the house of Lisieux. One of them, Mother Genevieve of St. Therese, was still living when Therese entered the second wing, containing the cells and sick rooms in which she was to live and die. Had been standing only 10 years. What she found was a community of very aged nuns, some odd and cranky, some sick and troubled, some lukewarm and complacent. Almost all of the sisters came from the petty bourgeois and artisan class. The priories and novice mistresses were of old Normandy nobility. Probably the Martin sisters alone represented the new class of the rising bourgeois. The Carmelite order had been reformed in the 16th century by Therese of Avila, essentially devoted to personal and collective prayer. The nuns of Lisieux followed a strict regimen that followed for only one meal a day for 7 months of a year and little free time. Only one room of the building was heated. The times of silence and of solitude were many, but the founders had also planned for time for work and relaxation in common. The austerity of the life should not hinder sisterly and joyful relations. Founded in 1838, the Carmel of Lisieux in 1888 at 26 religious from very different classes and backgrounds. For the majority of the life of Therese, the priories would be Mother Mary de Gonzague, born Mary Adele Rosil Devi de Verville. When Teresa entered the convent, Mother Mary was 54, a woman of changeable humor, jealous of her authority, used sometimes in capricious manner. This had for effect a certain laxity in the observance of established rules. In the 60s and 70s of the 19th century, an aristocrat in the flesh counted for more in a petty bourgeois convent than we can realize nowadays. The superiors appointed Mary de Gonzague to the highest offices as soon as her novitiate was finished. In 1874 began the long series of terms as priories. Thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoy the tour.
Approaching stop 4, Renix from our crew would be guiding you.
The last days of Saint Therese of Lisieux. In 1896, during Easter, Teresa experienced a first bout of coughing up blood that signaled the onset of tuberculosis. It also coincided with the darkening of her faith, and it is at this point that Therese's sanctity literally springs into view. Up until then, her faith life had been filled with consolations. The convent walls really did some to offer some protection against the problems of the world. But all of that ended on Good Friday 1896. We know of what follows from the published memories and letters she left. And yet, with all these writings, there is sometimes despaired of words, of how inadequate they were to convey what she meant, or how she felt nevertheless, for the purposes of understanding what she went through. A cheerful analogical style is more than adequate. 18 months after that fateful Easter, Therese Martin died. It was September 30th, 1897, and she was just 24. The world would have been in complete ignorance of her, but for what can only have been direct intervention by the Holy Spirit, and that was that impulsive directive given to Therese in 1895 by her sister Pauline, Mother Agnes, who was then prioress. Therese was ordered to write down the events of her life, starting with childhood memories, right up until the date of the directive. Carmelites, like all nuns, take vows of obedience, poverty, and chastity, and an order from the prioress had to be obeyed even if she was Therese's sister by blood. No special time was allotted for this task, just the scraps available while in her cell, writing at a little desk into a school exercise book with light from primitive sort of hurricane lamp. Therese finished writing what later became known as Manuscript A on January 20, 1896. An election for prioress was held on March 21, 1896, and Mother Agnes was replaced by Mother Mary de Gonzague. Some considerable time elapsed before Mother Agnes summoned the courage to tell the new prioress of the existence of Manuscript A. But unfortunately, its value was recognized, and Mother de Gonzague ordered Therese to continue writing, the emphasis now on a spiritual thinking and a life in Carmel. Therese commenced Manuscript C on June 3, 1897, and because of deteriorating health was allowed the luxury of time especially to write. She ceased writing on July 8, 1897, when she became too weak to even hold a pencil, and a short time later was admitted to infirmary to prepare for her death. In early September 1896, in the gap between manuscripts A and C, Therese received a request from her other blood sister, Sister Mary, who, sensing Therese's sanctity, wrote asking about a little way. Therese's lengthy reply, the incomparable manuscript B, took only 5 days to write, and together with the other two manuscripts make up what was later published and is today known as either The Story of a Soul or Autobiography of a Saint. The proposal to publish Therese's writing came about after her death, and within 1 year, an initial printing of 2,000 copies went on sale. The rest is history. Today, there are some 60 different translations in print. Sales figures of what is no doubt the greatest modern book of spirituality run into millions. The actual readership is probably many times more, as copies were and still are passed around and get read to bits. With the publication of The Story of a Soul, Therese's reputation and popularity soared as the so-called storm of glory. She gathered speed and garnered thousands upon thousands of miracles and favors attributed to her holiness and intercession. As acknowledgement of her faithfulness in the face of abandonment, God rewarded Therese by falling in with her promise to send down a shower of roses. As early as 1914, soldiers on both sides of the battlefields of World War I carried a herb card image on them. Therese Martin was canonized on May 17, 1925, and today a modern basilica dedicated to her in 1937 graces the skyline of the Normandy town of Lisieux. In October 1999, Mission Sunday, Pope John Paul II proclaimed Saint Therese a Doctor of the Church. We could add she is a Doctor of the Science of Love, since that is her undoubted speciality. I hope you guys will have a great journey ahead.
Approaching fifth stop. Lisa would be guiding you all here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and I will be taking you through our fifth stop. Over here, we'll be going over the canonization of Saint Therese and her parents. I hope your seatbelts are still on. Let's get going. Pope Pius X signed the decree for the opening process of canonization of Saint Therese on 10th June 1914. Pope Benedict XV, in order to hasten the process, dispensed with the usual 50-year delay required between death and beatification. On 14th August 1921, he promulgated the decree on the heroic virtues of Therese, declaring her venerable. She was beatified on 29th April 1923. Therese was canonized on 17th May 1925 by Pope Pius XI, only 28 years after her death. According to the New York Times, over 60,000 people witnessed the canonization ceremony of Saint Therese. Did you know Saint Therese's parents Zeal and Louis Martin were the first spouses to be proposed for canonization as a couple and the first to be canonized together? Announced by Cardinal Xavier Martins on 19 July 2008, on the 150th anniversary of the marriage of the Venerable Zeal and Louis Martin, their beatification as a couple took place on 19 October 2008 in Lisieux. Louis and Zeal Martin were canonized on 18 October 2015.
Preparing for landing.
There are a lot of qualities that we can learn from the life of Saint Teresa, like being humble, working hard, choosing to worry about others' lives over one's own, and to do little things with great love. As we all know, Saint Teresa is a patron saint of CML. All of us are missionaries of the Catholic Church, and it is our duty to spread Jesus by doing little things like sharing our things with others, helping others, sacrificing the things we love, and by praying for others. By doing all these, let's follow the path of Saint Teresa just by doing little things with great love. Let this short flight be a reminder for all of us to take a break from this busy worldly life and to take some time to look into the life of the saints, which would significantly help us to reach closer to our true destination, which is heaven. This is Giselle Jensen, your captain, signing off. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you once again for choosing Mary Matha Airlines.